Good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today and to have the opportunity to talk to you, such an informed and aware audience, on this critical and key topic. I would also like to say it's a genuine pleasure to be back in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as part of making sure that the connection between the UK and KSA remains strong. It is always a pleasure to be here and to meet old friends and cement some of those relationships. Some 10 years ago, I wrote an article about the digital innovation revolution and how this was occurring with businesses with such intensity that it felt like it was a massive tsunami wave rushing towards the business. Back then, the challenge was to find a way to surf that wave and create new business opportunity or risk irrelevance and be overtaken by competitors. Now, winding forward over those last 10 years right to today, we can see that the intervening period has only seen that wave increase in height, breadth, and pace. And all that by a couple of orders of magnitude. AI is driving up the height of this wave yet again. During the last 10 years, businesses in the wider economy have really learned how to surf, how to innovate, and how to exploit the opportunities for business value, and some of them at genuinely massive scale. But some businesses haven't coped so well. Some businesses have gone under because they didn't get it. Everyone is now crystal clear that digital is the critical competitive dynamic. You have to learn to surf better than your competitors. Being good at digital defines winning and losing, and that's true absolutely in the defense and national security world. It is now the key competitive dynamic because our world is almost 100% completely digital and data defined. It defines how we work, how we play, how we interact, and how we build and how we use things. This software ubiquitousness means that we are now more than ever directly exposed to cyber risk in a way that actually threatens the life of enterprises if you don't get it. Surfing the tsunami now means that you have to be really good at cyber defense. It isn't a nice to have. This digital ubiquity has expanded our cyber risk exposure, making cyber defense an existential necessity for all enterprises. So let me share 3 priorities that I see as critical components of an organized response, and I think it's somewhat independent of your maturity on the cyber scale or the size of your business. I'm not offering it as a comprehensive list, but it's certainly foundational elements that I believe need to be evident. The first one is the old-fashioned IT disciplines and processes and professionalism really matter. The second is that the cyber aspects of that tsunami, with the emergence of AI and quantum, drive a need for new levels of investment in modern defense. And third, your third-party supply chain needs just as much attention as your internal efforts. Let me take them each one in turn. Old-fashioned IT disciplines. In a world where AI conversations dominate, let me take a somewhat different approach to start and say that the boring world of old-fashioned IT disciplines, by that I mean managing legacy, asset management, risk health assessments, patching, change controls, and access controls, all remain absolutely essential elements of building that strong foundation of cyber defense. They are fundamentals in how organizations need to manage their technology, and they form the bedrock upon which all other security controls will stand. When these foundations are weak, even the most advanced security tools will be overwhelmed. When they are weak, we effectively leave the back door of our house open, and we're inviting adversaries in. The increasingly sophisticated protagonists we all face can easily see these open doors. There doesn't really need to be a neon light above the door saying, "Come in." When the defenses are strong, they form foundations on which resilience can actually be built. But often, that's easier said than done, even for the best and the most disciplined amongst us. Everyone has improvements to make because only one open door is enough, because it's been constantly searched and looked for. It's actually really quite hard to do, and it takes consistent investment, which sometimes in the modern world when resources are scarce can be difficult to argue your case to get. And now I know everyone here knows this. Because it's hard to do, it's worth being explicit about some of the key elements of these disciplines. Let's just look at a few. First one I wanted to highlight is legacy systems. And this is a problem, certainly in the national security space, where we have long established inventories of sometimes quite old systems and platforms. It's one of the greatest inhibitors to cyber resilience. Older systems often lack modern security configurations. They use deprecated protocols. Sometimes they can't be patched but they support critical and sometimes fragile business processes. Our adversaries know this, and they deliberately target legacy systems as weak spots. Good IT discipline here means more than simply replacing old technology. It means you really need to understand what legacy you have. Sometimes that's actually quite hard. And you need accurate inventories and dependency mapping. You need to prioritize that legacy environment based on risk. You're not going to fix it all. Sometimes you're going to have to live with the very, very old. So you have to make clear choices, and you have to be clear on where you're going to invest. And it often means creating containment strategies when replacement isn't feasible, and that looks like network segmentation, enhanced monitoring, or virtual patching. Organizations that do this well reduce the sprawling, uncontrolled attack surfaces that adversaries rely on. Then I want to identify patching, the non-negotiable discipline in any major organization. Mostly when we look at cyber incidents, the vulnerability that's been exploited was known, was documented, and was probably patchable. Yet patching remains inconsistent across large enterprises because of organizational complexity, legacy dependencies, sometimes fear of downtime. Effective patch management means you need to be really clear on who owns systems and applications so that no asset becomes orphaned. And you're going to need a structured patching cycle with emergency processes for critical vulnerabilities. And you're going to have to automate how you do patching, because we simply cannot keep pace with the scale of today's threat landscape by doing it in the old manual ways. The key message is simple: patching isn't optional. It's one of the most powerful, cost-effective, and proven ways to prevent successful attacks. But it only works when it's treated as a disciplined and predictable operational routine. Now, patching can't be done without good asset management, i.e. knowing what you own and what its health is in terms of its capabilities. You simply cannot defend what you don't know that you've got. Asset management, hardware, software, cloud resources, identities is the backbone of every other IT discipline. So you need to know what you have with some detail sitting behind it to be able to understand what you need to do to manage it. Now, without a reliable picture of assets, you create lots of open doors. People don't need a key to be able to come in through your door. That then leads on to access controls. And here I'm going to focus on one aspect of access controls that stands out consistently, even in the best run organizations, and that's privileged access account management and controls. Not doing this well is the equivalent of taking multiple copies of your front door key and leaving them around town with your address as a label attached. You're inviting people to come in. Cyber risk is a business risk, Effective risk, in turn, means technical issues have to be turned into business outcome exposures. Disciplined organizations integrate risk assessments into every phase of technology management. Strategic planning, ensuring long-term technology decisions account for security implementations. Change control, ensuring that every change, large or small, is reviewed for cyber impact. And good operational management. By that I mean continuously evaluating risk for new vulnerabilities, system changes, supplier behavior, and threat trends. The point is not to eliminate risk because you can't. The point is to make informed trade-offs. Without structured risk assessment, vulnerabilities accumulate silently, and decisions are made based on convenience or intuition rather than evidence. With a strong risk management discipline, the organization knows where its highest exposures are and invests accordingly. Describing cyber as a business risk, not as a technology risk, opens up new avenues to attract investment into your business. So good cyber defense begins with those good IT disciplines, and strong cyber defense isn't built from tools alone. It's built from the habits of good IT management processes. It's a routine that creates stability, reduces the attack surface, accelerates response, and allows advanced security capabilities, which you want to layer on top, to function properly. These practices sometimes seem operational, often mundane, but together they form the foundation of that modern cyber resilience that we need. And in an age where adversaries constantly innovate, it is organizations that can excel at these fundamentals that actually stand the best chance of staying secure, stable, and resilient. Now, don't underestimate the challenge and the difficulty of doing these basics well. 80% good might not cut it in the current modern climate, and fixing that remaining 20% becomes exponentially harder as you get towards closing and identifying where all your core exposures are. It requires real professionalism. My second priority is about how we move on to create new levels of investment. And it's built on a recognition that the threat environment has materially shifted for the worse, and the trends keep it moving that way. Organized crime, states, and a very big blurred line between the two is driving a threat profile that's automated, fast, and adaptive. The gray zone seems to move inexorably upwards. Digitalization of our organizations creates ever bigger threat surfaces, and AI is allowing adversaries to scale up their reconnaissance and to generate convincing social engineering and identify exploitable weaknesses far more rapidly than any human analyst can do. We are already all in contact every day in that grey cyber zone. Now, for large enterprises with broad digital estates, this creates a fundamental challenge. The attack surface is expanding faster than our ability to defend it using traditional methods. The next generation of cyber defenses requires a big uptick in investment just to keep pace, let alone close the gap. And we all have to argue inside our organizations and win incremental investment to match this threat. Now, where does this investment need to go? A few things that I think we personally in the UK, certainly in defence, are focused on. The first one is to recognise that identity has become the new battleground. Most breaches today begin with compromised identities, stolen credentials, session hijacking, or privilege misuse. In complex organizations with hundreds of systems and thousands of privileged users, identity is now often the primary attack surface. It means we have to move to continuous authentication and tight control of privileged access. Identity management and zero trust is no longer a strategic aspiration. It's an operational minimum. And as data spreads across the cloud and our partners' regions and into AI systems, the traditional perimeter becomes irrelevant. A data-centric approach, classification, policy-driven access, and privacy-preserving techniques allow us to enforce control wherever data travels. But for most organizations, this isn't a trivial shift. It's hard, and it needs the establishment of fundamentally new digital architectures, and it drives a need for a new set of skills. This is where the investment focus needs to go. Now, for those of us in the national security world, this is also driving a requirement for us to move much more work up to higher classifications. And this can't be done at the expense of hiding data away. Data has to be available, accessible, inside our boundaries and across our corporate boundaries, just as it is in any business. And that's why the strategic partnership that we announced back in September with Google in order to put together our national secret cloud capability is a really important strategic capability. The emergence of quantum will also significantly challenge how we need to go about defending ourselves. And this isn't a put off until tomorrow conversation. Dealing with quantum needs to be a today conversation because already lots of our data is being harvested, harvest now and exploit later, and we all need to be thinking about that. Organizations now have to begin to address the strengthening of existing operational crypt keys and understanding how a migration to a quantum-resistant cryptography can begin in order to protect this high-value, long-lived data. It would be an error to focus on areas of investment without recognizing skills and talent as a key critical component. And this is one of our biggest challenges. How we grow and develop the high-end skills that we need all the way through our supply chain. Now, the emergence of AI will undoubtedly give us help in analysis and detection, but it won't change the need for continual investment in talent and expertise, and we need to reassess our delivery operational models in order to work out how do we best respond to the challenge that lies ahead. So this is a big area of investment. And we mustn't also forget the wider digital needs of our wider business populations, where often this is a key target for people who lack awareness about what I would call good digital savvy behaviors and expertise. We have to continually be investing in education and awareness about what does it mean to be a good digital savvy user in the modern world. The third priority that I want to focus on is the supply chain. Your supply chain exposes a whole new threat surface, and it exposes you just as much as it exposes your suppliers. It's your data and it's your reputation. Regulators are beginning to take a keener interest in compliance expectations that need to be in place. And you need to check and understand this landscape because it's going to put new accountabilities, some of them coming with legal requirements on you as a business. At UK Defence, within the last month, we have launched a new set of compliance expectations for all of our suppliers, no matter what they do, that builds in the minimum set of good cyber defence behaviours and processes that we expect need to be put in place. These aren't onerous. These are the things that most of our national advisory organisations are all saying are good, sensible things to be doing anyway. We're going to be turning that into contractual expectations. And look, finally, I just want to say to everyone here, this is a wonderful time, I think, to be a cyber professional. The world ahead of us is full of fantastic opportunities to grow our careers and grow your capability in response to all of the things that we've just been talking about. The world needs your skills, and I think you all have a bright future. I just want to say, enjoy this impressive event, make new contacts, make new friends, and use the opportunity to grow your skills. Thank you.